Day 1111, God just gave me another level of my framework. Not my framework, God's framework. And so we've got the Find Your Calling framework: identity, values, problem, people, vehicle, gifts. And I need to find a story in the Bible that represents each one of these. And then on the call that I just did, I said, imagine if Noah built a cabin instead of an ark. Like, that wouldn't have worked. And that represents the vehicle. What vehicle are you meant to build to express your gifts to the world? Is it a business? Is it a movement? Is it writing a book? Is it starting a community of people? But there's a vehicle that God has called you to build in this world, just like Noah was called to build the ark. If you build the wrong vehicle, it's just not going to be as effective, right? A cabin is not effective in a flood the way that an ark is. And so that just gave me this idea, like, I bet there's one for each. And so identity. So we've got identity. Moses, he was raised Egyptian, but he was born Hebrew. He was an Israelite. And so the amazing thing is, I talk about your identity. You've got the inner prisoner and you've got the inner warrior. The prisoners who Satan trained you to be, the warriors who God created you to be. So Moses was trained to be Egyptian, but he was born to be Hebrew. So I was like, wow, that's perfect. And then for values, we've got Paul. And this is about the desires of your heart. So a hardened heart to a softened heart. Your hardened heart are your false values. Your softened heart is after God touches your heart. And that's your softened heart, and those are your true values. And so this is where Paul, he was Saul, and he had a hardened heart towards Christians and was killing them and persecuting them. And then God touched his heart and he had a softened heart. And then he became Paul, and he became, a master of our faith. And so he's the one that represents the values of going from a hardened heart to a softened heart. And then we've got the problem that you fight in this world, which obviously David fighting Goliath. Like, that was his enemy. And imagine if David never fought Goliath. Imagine if Saul never became Paul. Imagine if Moses built a cabin instead of an ark. Like, wouldn't be good for us. And then we've got people, the people that you're meant to fight for, obviously Jesus. Like, he came down and manifested as a human being to fight for souls. And so that one's obvious. And then also gifts. So the gifts that God has given you, the natural gifts. Here we go. Samson was given the gift of strength, and then he fell in love with Delilah, and then she deceived him and cut his hair off, and then he lost his power. And just shows that God can give you power. He can give you natural gifts, and he can take it away. And God gave him his power back one last time. And so this whole framework goes on a whole deeper level. So before, it's just identity, values, problem, people, vehicle, gifts. And then we look at it from a warrior standpoint. Your identity is you being a warrior. Your values are your heart's desires. Your gifts are the weapons that God has given you. The problem that you solve in this world is the enemy that you fight. The people that you fight for are the souls that you fight for, and the vehicle that you build is the army that you create. And so now we've got an even deeper level of how I can explain this to the heroes. So identity, Moses going from Egyptian to Hebrew, Paul going from Saul to Paul and aligning his heart and having a softened heart, David fighting Goliath, Jesus fighting for people, Noah building the ark, not a cabin, and Samson using his gifts. So now I've got a story for each one, and these are all heroes of the Bible. And I'm just like, wow, God, it's so brilliant. A new level of depth, a new level of brilliance. And that's how I know this is from God. This is not me. I'm not this smart or creative or brilliant. This is only a God thing. It is incredible. And when I get this out to the world, when God helps me get this out to the world of believers, it's gonna take them by storm. I just know it. This whole idea of bringing purpose or bringing calling coaching to every believer in the world, it's looking more and more like a real deal thing. Because the depth of that is just like, it's so good. It's so freaking good. Like, it's so good. I'm so grateful. The brilliance of this is just crazy. The depth that God has shown me, it's just unbelievable. And I know this is the tip of the iceberg. Like, I know there's so much more to this framework. That's when you know if it's from God, it's got so much depth. And I don't know, he just keeps revealing more and more of it to me. And every time he does, I'm like, Lord, this is brilliant. We have to get this out to the world. So it's so good. It's so good. Thank you, Lord.